This is a brief tutorial on collections using VersaRent. First step is you go to the logon screen, you choose your employee name, punch in your password, then you go to Customers, Collectors Workstation. There's a bunch of choices you can use to filter them out. In my experience, it's best just to show all the customers. Takes a second to process, and then you'll see it brings up what's called the Collector's Workstation. On the left-hand side is a list of every expired account. Now, if we had used those filters on the screen before, we could have filtered out some. But one of the things I want to talk about today is the fact that I think one of the mistakes we sometimes make as store managers and employees is we focus maybe on only the most expired accounts, maybe only the 7-day plus accounts, and we shirk our duties on the less expired accounts, which really the key to keeping the expired percentage down, which leads to keeping our points system down that we use here at Majik and Lightning, is to focus really quite heavily on the less late accounts. So the 1 days, the 2 days, the 3 days are equally, if not more important than the 15 days or 13 days or even the 7 days. So what I typically do when I'm doing calls is I actually start from the bottom and work my way up. Again, because I can have the most effectiveness down here on these bottom accounts. These are the easy ones, and if I can keep the easy ones in line, then that's less and less harder ones. So if I get all these taken care of at 3 days, then I don't have to worry about them getting to 6 or 7 days. So this is as much a why video as it is a how-to video. It's partly learning VersaRent, but really mostly about how we want you to do collections. So I'm just going to go through a few of these and show you the things that I would recommend you do. First of all, if I'm looking at this 1-day expired account, okay, I can click on any of these, by the way. It takes a second to update, but I can click on any of them and it tells me anything I might want to know. So I'll go back to this very first one here, Ricardo. And you'll see here, this is the contact history. In this case, we only have one contact listed here. I'm not sure why that is, but it shows that on July 10th, we made a call at 10:05 a.m. and we left a message. And then here I can highlight this or click on it, and it says friendly reminder. And then, of course, the employee's initials and the time that they called. Now, on these comments, we do encourage, one of the things you'll find on VersaRent is the notes section. We do want you to put your initials, the time, the date, so that we have a running history. Here, it's not as necessary, although it's a good habit to stay into, because we do already have the initials, we do already have the date and time, but I'm not going to critique this employee for putting her initials and her date and time there, because it's a good habit to get into with all notes on VersaRent, because it doesn't time and date stamp a lot of the notes. So getting back to the customer here, here's the contact history, here's the commitment history. Now I'm going to go to a different customer just so we can see a little more of a robust history than what we see here. So here you can see every time we've tried to make a call, we've made a stop, we've received a call during collections, it's logged right here. So it's a really nice, easy running history of our contacts with this customer. In an ideal situation, we would have more comments here. Now, here you can see on 7/28 we received a call that resulted in a commitment. Now there's no notes here, but if you look over on the commitment, we see that on 7/28 this is the commitment that they made, and we do have a note explaining what they're paying. So this person was scheduled to pay a double payment with late fee, and a very good habit here that I see we have that this employee used was putting the exact amount that was quoted, and that's very, very important. On VersaRent here, it will list the amount due from the rental agreements, but on the notes I would always say very clearly what I told the customer. So, hey, Mr. Customer, I would be very thorough and say, Mr. Customer, the $68 that you promised to pay me pays you 2 weeks on each item, which will make you due again on, August 5th or whatever the case may be. And I would have that spelled out in the notes so that when the customer comes in and says, hey, I only have $50, then we know they're paying us less than we spoke about, and we have to decide whether we're still going to take that payment, whether we're going to take the payment and pick up one of the items or something like that. It's important to have very clear conversations with the person about what our expectations are, and then to note those expectations so that the next employee who might be there, let's say this employee, Kayla, is off the day the customer comes in. Well, then the customer is speaking to Charlie, let's say, and Charlie can look at the notes and see exactly what was promised and then hold that customer accountable for that commitment. If I need more information, what I can do is I have all sorts of access from here. First of all, agreement information is shown right here. This shows that this agreement started on March 19, 2014. It's a biweekly term, and they paid 9.5 biweekly payments out of 24 scheduled biweekly payments. They do have the damage waiver, and this is the biweekly payment rate. So every 2 weeks, their scheduled payment is $45.98. We owe them 48 cents in their deferment balance. So a negative deferment balance means that they've overpaid that amount. So I give this store credit for doing what we've asked, which is usually, try not to charge money on the account. In other words, try not to have them owing us money out of partial payments. Encourage them to overpay a little bit so that they have a little bit of a negative balance in there. This customer's been late 7 times. 1 time over 7 days late. The average days late has been 5. So this customer, of those 7 times, has been late an average of 5 days each time. So, this is where we run into a problem. We have a customer that's paid less than 10 payments. 7 of them have been an average of 5 days expired. And this is why we need to have these conversations with this customer and say, hey, you promised to pay us $45.98 every 2 weeks. If you're not able to pay the $45.98 every 2 weeks, then we need to figure out what to do. Do we need to get you into a less expensive, and I don't know what this is off the top of my head, but let's say it's a living room set. Do we need to get you in a less expensive living room set? Do we need to do something else? And let's figure out what the solution is rather than just having the customer paying us late every single payment. Okay, now that gives me some information, but it doesn't give me a whole bunch of information. So there's some other things I can do here. You can see just by highlighting here, it says view payment history, view account details. So I can click right here and say, all right, this particular agreement, just shows me more information. This is the entire rental agreement information. It shows what the specifics are there. And then this is the payment history. And now, unfortunately, this history goes from oldest to newest. So if I click on the last page or go to the bottom of this page, it shows me. Now, this is just for this one account. So now you see how this has, well, this person only has one account. But if I clicked on a different account here, it would show different information here based on whichever account I'm choosing. I should say if I clicked here. So this is for a PS3. I'm sorry, I was not looking at the account information. So this is for this is the account number, the item, which is a PlayStation 3, the due date, the last paid date, and then the current amount due. Now sometimes, okay, maybe this is a lot of information I have here, and if I wanted to say look at the comments for the customer. Okay, in a perfect world, we would have a lot of comments here that would be by date order showing kind of the history of the deal we made with this customer and where they stand. So that's a nice thing to have there is the customer comments where I would have the conversations I've had with the customer should be noted here. Okay, I spoke to, okay, maybe this is just showing me the comments. I may not be able to change them here. So if I do want to change them, what I can do is go to the payment screen. So while this gives me a lot of information, I can do a lot more by clicking on payment here. And it just reminds me, hey, this customer has a commitment, so keep that in mind. And then it brings me to the actual payment screen, which by now I think everyone's pretty familiar with. This shows everything I need to know, and more importantly, I can click on the comments and make changes here. So when I speak to the customer, my goal is to try to get that customer to pay on time every time. So I'm going to find out customer gets paid every other Friday, and then I'm going to put maybe what Friday they get paid. So August 1st, August 1 equals payday. So now I know, hey, you're going to get paid August 1st, you're going to get paid August 15th, and so on and so on. So it's going to be easy for me to look at a calendar and see when their pay dates are. And then I would probably say, first of all, I'm going to put my initials and then the date. See, here's one of the ones where it doesn't date stamp it, so I want to make sure I put that information. Okay, and then I'm going to say, okay, customer promised to pay, and I'm just putting numbers here, but I would want to have exact numbers to get this customer caught up. So what I would do is figure out, okay, Mr. Customer, you owe me $53 right now, and that pays you from 7:30. That pays you for a biweekly payment. So you can see right now they're doing Wednesdays. There's a very unlikely chance that this customer is really getting paid on Wednesdays, so that's probably the source of the problem. If we could have this customer, so if they pay us 2 weeks, it's $52.98, but that leaves them due on a Wednesday again. So if we can just confirm with this customer that, yeah, I get paid on Fridays like most other people, so let's pay them, customer needs to pay not just 14 days, but let's figure out what they need to pay to get to that Friday due date. Okay, so what's that going to be, about 16 days, I think. Okay, so if we could pay them till August 15th or the 16th maybe, the 15th would be the Friday, the 16th would be the Saturday. So let's talk to them and say, hey, do you want to come in on your pay date, which is Friday, or do you want to come in Saturday? It gives you a little bit of a flexibility if you get off late, and then we pay them appropriately. So if we can just collect another few dollars from that person, maybe we get them on time now, and we have them on their pay schedule. So if I did 17 days, that would make them due again on the 16th. And maybe she doesn't have $65. So what we do is we get her on a schedule to pay, and again, we can only change her due day if we're working to get her back on her pay schedule. We never change her due day because it's convenient for us, because it's a more even payment. Like she wants to pay us $60, so we're going to pay 12 days or whatever. So because she can only give us $45 today. We never do this unless our goal is to change her onto her due date. So customer needs to pay, so maybe for the next we needed 17 days, so maybe the customer can only just pay a little bit more than the basics. So what we do is we say, all right, Mr. Customer, pay us $57. That's only a couple more dollars than your basic payment. $57 for 15 days on 8/1, 8/15, and 8/29. That will get her due on Fridays from now on. Okay, and this way we have a clear note. Discuss this with customer on phone 7:31. Okay, this way we have a clear note explaining exactly what was talked to about with the customer, exactly what the expectation is, and then I would even say customer agrees to let us pick up and hold item if she can't meet these payment arrangements. Now in this case, you only have a customer who's 1 day expired, so you might not have that discussion with them at this point, but it doesn't hurt to have that. If the customer can't pay on their pay date, when are they going to be able to pay, right? So I'm going to delete these. Now, even my normal preferences, though, even once this has been accomplished, let's just move them down on the list, and then the next notes are up here. Because then we have a running total of what we've talked to the customer about. And down the road, 6 months from now, when the customer says, you never did me any favors, or whatever, you can go back and just look at what you've done for them and what you've worked out for them and how whether they were easy to work with or whether they were not easy to work with. So I think it's important to keep those notes. Now, since these were fake notes, I'm going to delete them. Okay. So like I said, it's important to have a plan in place. How do we get this customer back on track? Now, you have two different types of history as well. While we're in this payment screen, you can click on an item. So if there were 3 or 4 items here, I would click on the item I want the history for, and then I'd do payment history. Now, what this shows me is the payment history for this particular item. And again, like I said earlier, it shows from oldest to newest, so I have to go down to the bottom. And I can see on July 19th, this customer paid 2 biweekly payments, $45.98, and the total was $57.98. And it was in the store, and this is the employee that took it, and this was their new due date. I'm sorry, that's not actually accurate. It's 2 credits, and a credit is a weekly payment. So I read that wrong. So a biweekly payment, which is how it's set up, is actually 2 credits or 2 weekly payments, and then this is the amount for those 2 weekly payments or 1 biweekly payment. It's a little confusing. So the 1.00 is the number of credits. A week is 1 credit. A biweekly payment is 2 credits. A monthly payment is, in most cases, in new accounts, would be 4 credits. And then the other kind of history is customer history, which is under customer payment history. And this shows the amount the customer paid in total each time they come in to pay. So it's more of an overall history. And here you can see on 7/19, the customer came in, had a $0 convenience fee, made a total payment of $57.98 using cash and then getting some change. So you sometimes might need to use both of those histories. Neither of them, unfortunately, is full of great descriptive detail. That's something we'll have to figure out if we can modify in the future. But for now, it's not fantastic, but it is what it is. So anyway, getting back, now if I just cancel out of this, it's going to take me back to the collector's workstation. Now I could process a payment there. If that customer was on the phone and said, I want to run a payment, we can run payments right from that screen. But if I want to go back to the collector's workstation because I was just doing some research or just speaking to the customer, then I do that. But the important thing to understand is for each and every customer, whether it's a 1-day expired or a 51-day expired, we're coming up with a plan to get them caught up to date, and we're making them stick to that plan, or we're picking up the merchandise. Now again, our goal is not to be angry or upset or even disappointed. Our goal is very matter of fact, Mr. Customer, we have this payment plan in place for you. I need you to understand if you're not able to pay for one reason or the other, we still want you as a customer. We still value, we still want you back when you're able to pay, but we will have to pick up the merchandise until you can pay for it. Because essentially, you know, it's just like renting a car. You rent a car for 3 days, you pay for 3 days, usually in advance. You rent a sofa set, you pay a week in advance, you get to use it for a week. If you're not able to pay the next week, you're not able to use it for that week. Free days or expired accounts cost the company money because our creditors don't allow us to not pay for our merchandise. We have to pay for it, and that's why we have to collect from our customers. And it's a fair agreement. Every rental company requires their customers to pay for the merchandise they have. Now, that's not to say that once a year maybe, and again, we don't schedule that once a year, but if someone has a catastrophic event where you know, they're in the hospital for a week or 2 weeks or 3 days and their paycheck is really reduced, yeah, by all means, if it's a one-time event, we can help them out with some free days. But then that note goes on there, hey, we gave them 4 free days because they were in the hospital for a week. And then a month later when the same thing happens, I'm sorry, Mr. Customer, we just extended you the free, you know, some free days last month. What we can do is pick up the item and hold it for you, you know, and then that way we freeze your payments. And then, you know, hey, as soon as you're able to get that paycheck back in full, we'll bring it right back to you because we really want to keep you as a customer. And I realize that your customers are not used to this in some cases, But once they are, it makes life really easy because you don't have to have those discussions all the time. You don't have to have those arguments. They understand that they have to pay or you're going to pick it up. So there's really no confusion. It just is what it is. So again, just working our way up this customer list, we have the next customer. Again, we have all these various things. Now, one thing to keep in mind is I'm going to look up at one that I've looked at earlier today. And we're going to look at what we call a made commitment. Okay, it's important to understand that yeah, that just because it says made doesn't mean it's actually made. Okay, so for example, on 731, this customer promised us to pay $250 on July 31st. Now, this isn't the one I was thinking of, but what I'm going to do is part of what we do when we're reviewing these late accounts as DMs or as managers is we're looking and saying, okay, well, this customer promised to pay us $250. Well, you know what? Let's see what they did pay us. So I'm going to go to the payment screen. And then I'm going to customer history. And then, unfortunately, this customer only paid $180. So this is something that's really important to realize is if someone promises to pay you $250 and they can only pay you $180, despite what this collector's workstation says in the sense that it tells us that it's a made commitment, that is in fact a missed commitment. If the customer paid $180 of the $250 that they promised, you need to understand as a manager and as a DM that this is a missed commitment. So they paid $70 less than what they promised us they were going to pay. So we need to figure out, okay, so you didn't pay us the $250 you promised us, which was going to, you know, and I don't know specifically what the agreement was here. Let's just see if we can tell. Okay, so I can either click on that or I can hit this little pencil figure there, and it actually lets me, I think, change those or at least view them, and I can add new comments. So paid $30 to that day, and then is paying $250 on 7/31, which will pay her up till 8/15, and that includes late fees. So this is a great note. It tells us exactly what we explained to her. So she was scheduled on 7/31. The only thing this note is missing is what's the next plan, and that really the next plan should be under comments. Paid $30 is paying $250 on 7/31, so pay up until 8/15. Okay, so maybe I misread that. Oh, I did misread that. So it says we'll pay her up until 8/15, and that includes late fees. So this customer did not pay that. So then what was the next thing? Well, see, that's what this note needs to be is what the next plan is. So let's go back here once. Okay, so I see this was actually just done today. I was a little confused, but so we have $180 paid today on this account. Um, but unfortunately we don't have any new. I think there's just was that. So, maybe today. Made payment today for her account up until next week on Thursday. Then she gets paid again. My boyfriend will be in today with $40 for TV. She gets paid every Thursday. Okay, so we just have a we have a situation where every time we run into this customer, we can come up with a new excuse, and that's again, every customer can have a new excuse each and every time. That's why we need to have those set dates, set promises, either they pay or they don't pay, and then we pick up or we don't pick up. It's not to say that, hey, this customer may very well be in tomorrow or the next day, but we have no idea because we're not really holding her accountable for those commitments. If she ran into a water bill problem, then that could wait too. But she knows we're going to wait, so she makes us wait. And each and every one of these is going to be the same situation. If we look at the notes, we look at the history, it's so important to look at each and every situation. How do we get this person so that they're paying on time, on their due date each and every time? And again, the way we do that is we have that conversation. Here's what we need to pay this paycheck. First of all, when is your paycheck? Let's have that noted here. What day of the week do you get paid? Hopefully it's your due date, but a lot of these aren't due on days that they should be. So what is your pay date? And is it every 2 weeks? Okay, so you want to pay us every 2 weeks on a Friday. Okay, that's step one. Let's have that noted. Step two is okay, you're behind, you're not on time right now, so what can we pay this coming paycheck, the next paycheck, until we're caught up? So they're going to owe us, whatever they owe us plus the late charge. They might have to change their due date so that it's due on their actual pay date or the day after. So we need to figure that amount out and then get them to pay their basic payment plus a little bit extra. At least that amount. I mean, maybe they can catch it completely up to date, but at least a little bit more than their basic payment for the next 2 or 3 or 4 paychecks until they're caught up. We need them to understand that if they miss that commitment, we do have to pick items up until they can pay what they promised. And we've got to be real strict with that. When they miss the commitment, when they underpay the commitment, whatever the case may be, we have to say, oh, I'm sorry, Mr. Customer, I'm sorry you're not able to pay what you had agreed to pay. So what we need to do is pick up the Xbox or pick up the dining room set until you can get that paid up, because we have enough to pay these 2 items. We just don't have enough to pay the third one. Which one is the least important to you? We'll work with you. We really want to work with you, but we do need to hold one of the items since you weren't able to pay what you promised us. In almost all these cases, hey, you're going to have an upset customer, but no one else is letting them rent stuff for free. That's the thing you have to keep in mind. No one else is renting them merchandise for free. And no one else is having them pay a day here, a day there, 3 days there, having them run, again, 3 days is okay, it seems, but if we're not having that consistent conversation with people and making them understand that we do consider 3 days serious. Hey, we need you to pay when you promise to pay us. Expired is expired. This rental is not paid, so we need to have that plan in place. So we find out their pay date. We set up a plan to get them caught up to date. When they miss their payment, we take that very seriously. A missed commitment is huge. They promised to pay, they didn't pay. So we're stopping by that home, we're calling that person and saying, hey, you were due in yesterday with $250. Where we're, not where we're, we're not going to be mean, but we need to schedule a time to pick up the merchandise until you can pay that rental fee that you promised us. Again, we're not angry, we're not mean, we're just matter of fact and very polite, if anything. Hey, we really want to keep you as a customer, but we do need to pick up the merchandise until you can pay us for what's due. Blame it on your DM, blame it on whatever, but it's the store policy. And we don't like to quote policy, but we do require payment for rented merchandise. It's just simply the way the business works. So really, other than that, it's quite simple. I'm going to reiterate it one last time. I know you're getting tired of hearing it, but you find out when they get paid. You note it on the notes. You find out a way to get them to that term. You make an agreement with them. For anyone who's expired, you make an agreement with them. How much can you pay me on each of your next 1, 2, 3, whatever, how many ever it takes, pay dates? It can't be their basic payment plus $1. It's got to be, a reasonable expectation of, hey, I'm going to get caught up in the next, 3 or 4 weeks. You put that clearly in the notes. On this date, they're going to pay this much. On this date, they're going to pay this much, and so on and so forth. And then if they miss that, we have to pick up merchandise. It doesn't have to be all of it. We can pick up one item and pay the other two, whatever, but we have to pick up merchandise because that's the only thing that's going to make them realize we're serious is we have to do what we say we're going to do. And then if they miss commitments, we follow up immediately. We call, we stop, we pick it up. We don't accept commitments past, we accept one commitment, and if they miss that, we don't accept another commitment. Hey, I missed you yesterday, but I can come in next week now. I'm sorry, Mr. Customer. We had you down that you were going to be in last week, and you were already 3 days expired. We need to pick up the merchandise until you can pay us. So we don't allow rolling commitments. We don't allow someone to just be running a week behind, 2 weeks behind. We always have to have a plan to get them caught up. They're not just holding steady. So this is a pre-recorded webinar message, just FYI, and you feel free to email me questions, and I'll follow up at another time. Thank you. Actually, don't exit yet. What I'm going to do is show you how you make a contact and a commitment. It's actually quite simple, but there are a couple important things to remember. So if I made contact here, I would click on, well, that's the comments actually. New contact, all right, sorry, it's been a while. New contact. And then I just tell what they did. They dropped by the store. They sent me an email. Or I sent them an email. It could be either one, actually. I made a call. I received a call. Let's say I made a call. I can choose which phone number. Now there's only one phone number in there, but I can enter a new phone number. Okay, I could type in like right down here, 717. There's a new phone number, and then I type in the date, time, and then what the result of that phone call was. So maybe it was busy. Maybe they made a commitment for me. Okay. Then it asks me what the commitment is. Now, an important thing to remember about the commitments is, let me, let's exit here once. Okay, so that account already had a commitment. That's why it wasn't showing the accounts. But so I pulled up another account that has no commitment right now. So then I just say when they're committing for. So if I'm going to take a commitment, I'm going to take it for, let's say, August 4th at noon. Okay, so I change the date and time, and then I hit the check mark, and you'll see that changes the date and time down here. If I hit the check mark before I do this, then it doesn't change them. So I have to hit the check mark after I select the date and time, and then I hit OK. I'm not going to do it here because I don't want to save a false commitment when this isn't a test database, but if I hit OK, then it'll update the commitment and the contact history down here. So with that, I will leave you, and with questions, we can follow up with some other answers at another webinar. Thank you.